Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the IPM performance for the month of February. I'm sorry we had to start a little late because today's webinar I'm taking from home and I'm actually facing some connectivity problems. So it's possible that I may drop out in between. So please bear with me. I will join immediately as soon as possible once I restore the connectivity. So today's topic, we are covering some interesting topics today for the webinar. The initial analysis, the special analysis that we do today, do every time, we will be covering the changing composition of the Indian pharma market and realignment of company priorities based on this changing dynamics. Also, we are looking at the dynamics in the GLP-1 agonist market. There is a lot of noise level that's happening in the market. I have not covered this topic for quite some time, but since there are patent expiries that will be happening and there is a lot of excitement in the market, I'm trying to cover the dynamics in this market as well. Besides these two topics, we will be taking our regular topics of the therapy performance, growth drivers, corporate and brand standing. So the first section, we look at the changing composition of the Indian pharma market and realignment of the company priorities. Even before going to this section, what is important is looking at how the composition of the Indian pharma market has changed. So, as you know, all the people who are using our audit or the therapies are broken down into three sections: acute, chronic, and subchronic. So, acute would be the therapies where the consumption is between 7 to 30 days. Chronic would be typically the therapies which fall in this section are the anti-infectives, the pain, the cough and cold preparations. Chronic segment would be the segment where the consumption is more than 6 months. Typically, the drugs which fall in the diabetes segment, the asthma segment, the cardiac segment fall in this category. And subchronic segment is the section which comes between chronic and subchronic, where the consumption is between 1 to 6 days. Typically, the nutritional supplements, the probiotics, or certain products in the anti-dandruff segment, they would fall in this section. What is interesting to see is over a period of time, the contribution of acute segment has come down from 47% to 44%, and that of the chronic and subchronic, especially the chronic segment, has increased. Now, usually many of the pharma companies look at chronic and subchronic segment as combined segment. So the chronic and subchronic segment today contributes to almost 56% of the Indian pharma market. And if you were to look at the growth and 5-year CAGR of both of these segments, it is the chronic segment which has shown a double-digit growth at a MAT level as well as a 5-year CAGR. Now, if I were to look at the past few decades, how the entire structure of the diseases within the country has changed, we see that in the year 1990, it was the communicable diseases which were dominant. The non-communicable diseases like the oncology or the asthma or the cardiometabolic conditions were contributing to only 38%. However, if you look at within 25 years, that is, I have numbers from 1990 to 2016. I don't have the latest 2026 numbers, but within 25 years itself, we have seen that the contribution of the non-communicable diseases has increased from 38% to 62%. If I were to look at what would have happened in the next 10 years or in the next decade, I'm sure this number would have reached close to 70%. From 62%, it would have reached to 70%. Now, if I were to look at the composition of the non-communicable diseases today, almost 66% falls in the cardio-diabeto-obesity segment, close to 22% in the chronic respiratory segment, which is mostly the asthma and the COPD segment, and close to 12% in the cancer or the oncology segment. Now, in this scenario, how has the Indian pharma market changed? So earlier, acute therapy decades back when I used to look at the numbers of all of us used to look at the composition of the Indian pharma market, the acute therapy used to contribute to almost or more than 60 subchronic therapies. They contribute collectively close to 56. I may lose my connection. I'll rejoin again. So today, chronic subchronic segments contribute to close to 56% of the Indian pharma market. This is a strong indicator of non-communicable or lifestyle diseases gaining traction in the country. Acute therapies, which are more volume driven, the anti-infectives, the pain, the and the the gastro segment, they are more volume driven and they're mature therapies. they would continue to show a stable growth based on the seasonal disease pattern. So each of these therapies, they pick up in the monsoon season or the winter season, or in the summer season. So depending upon the disease profile. However, it is the chronic and the subchronic therapies that are more value driven, and they will show accelerated growth in the next few years to come. This would be a combined effect in increase in the incidences of NCDs coupled with premiumization and of patent opportunities. Now let us look at how the Indian pharma players are tapping this opportunity. Some of the top Indian players have made conscious focus on the chronic subchronic segment, either by building the legacy brands. So when I'm talking about legacy brands, we have Sun Pharma, which has got strong presence in the cardio-diabetes segment with strong brands like Rosimas or Gemmer or USV for that matter, EcoSprint AV, Glycomed GP, Glenmark having a strong brand Telma, or Cipla in the anti-asthma segment with strong brands, many strong brands, the topmost among them being Foracort and Budecort. Then comes to partnerships. When these DPP4s, SGLT2s came in the market, it was the initial few players which actually made very strong partnerships. Sun's partnership with MSD or Novartis partnership with USV in the DPP4 segment. Or if you look at the latest, we are seeing Cipla's partnership with Eli Lilly or MQ's partnership with Novo. They are trying to build this segment or becoming strong in classic example. The latest example is Torrent's acquisition of JB Chemicals, wherein they have a strong brand in the cardiac segment, Cilacar, which takes Torrent to the number one position in the cardiac segment. Investing in research, the most strong example we have today is the innovative molecule Saraglitazar from Zydus has made its space in the cardiometabolic space in the Indian pharma market and leveraging on the off-patent opportunity. Of course, there are many molecules which have gone off patent, will be going off patent in the cardiometabolic space, even in the oncology space, and many Indian players would be leveraging this opportunity. So in the previous slide, what we had seen is the chronic plus subchronic segment contributes to almost 56% of the IPM. Now the top 20 companies, they contribute to almost 70% of the IPM. If you look at these top 20 companies, majority of them have more than 50% of their portfolio in the chronic subchronic segment. Of course, the ones which I have highlighted in green color, whether it is Torrent, Intas, Lupin, USV and Eris, they have more than 70% of their portfolio in the chronic plus subchronic segment. The next 20 set of companies, which collectively contribute to around 15% of the IPM, we have players like Corona, Nutricia, and AstraZeneca, which have a very strong presence in the cardio-diabetes. So collectively, the top 40 companies collectively contribute to around 85% of the IPM. So these 85%, in this 85% of the value contributing companies, we see majority of them have made strong inroads in the chronic subchronic space. Now, if I want to summarize this section, what we see is the changing dynamics in the Indian pharma market indicate a strong shift from stable seasonal demand-driven acute therapies to lifestyle diseases. Next, we go to our section of the dynamics in the GLP-1 agonist market. So we'll first look at the dynamics so far. What has happened in the market? So if you see from 2022 onwards, actually we are seeing a very strong pickup in the obesity or the GLP-1 agonist market. In fact, in this 1 year, the market has actually tripled from 500 crore. It is close to 14 500 500 crore. It is close to 1446 crore. So this is almost tripling of the anti-obesity market in terms of value. I'm not talking about volumes. It is in terms of value, it has tripled. So if you were to look at which are the major contributors, it is the tirzepatide and semaglutide. These are the two molecules which have made a difference to the market. While Rybelsus, which was launched in Jan 22, initiated serious discussions on the obesity epidemic, It was in this year, from March 25 onwards, that we started seeing launches in the injectable segment. Wegovy, Ozempic, and Mounjaro were launched in this period, starting in the in the year 2025. And they have accelerated the growth of this market because of the convenient dosing form, the convenient frequency of taking the doses. Novo Nordisk increased the access through affordable prices. Somewhere in the last quarter of 2025, there was price decline that was taken by Novo Nordisk, which actually increased affordability and access. And of course, in the last quarter, we have seen partnerships between Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly with some of the strong Indian players, which has led to increase in the share of voice of this set of products. If I were to look at the trends, in the injections market, while tirzepatide had an advantage of early launch, tirzepatide was launched somewhere in March 2025. The semaglutide molecule seems to be picking up well in the recent months. Why do I see that? Is if you see the first graph, I have talked about the injections market picking up. Here I'm talking about, this is in terms of units, this is the tirzepatide market and this is the semaglutide market. Over here, since tirzepatide had the advantage of early launch, 100% of the market share was tirzepatide. But if you see in the recent months, actually this gap in the market share is narrowing. And today's semaglutide injections, they contribute to almost or more than 20% of this injectables market. What is the unique advantage or what is the difference between the two brands or the set of brands which are launched by these two companies? Mounjaro from is actually a molecule or a brand which is for management of both obesity and diabetes. Whereas semaglutide, there are two brands from Novo, Ozempic, which is more for management of diabetes, and Wegovy, which is more for management of obesity. This dual brand strategy has helped for better patient profiling and access to the doctors. We need to wait and watch and see how the dynamics changes over a period of time for both the innovators as well as the impact of branded generics on the innovators. Also, what I try to look at the incremental business or the incremental consumption that has been seen, because now the numbers that I have shown is month on month incremental. So this is the difference of December sales over November sales, difference between Jan sales over December sales. So what is the incremental that has been seen? If you see in the last 2 months, the incremental consumption that has come more from the semaglutide injections more than the tirzepatide injection. This is also talking about more number of patients probably getting onboarded on semaglutide, though in terms of volume, it may be much smaller than tirzepatide, but in terms of incremental patient increase, the semaglutide seems to be picking up in the last 2 months. Of course, there may be many parameters which may be leading to it. Price or increase in affordability may actually have increased access, and partnership with Emcure would have actually increased the noise levels. So there are many dynamics that come into picture, but then yes, we see semaglutide now picking up in the race. Then when we look at the volume, we are seeing a similar shift in trends. Almost 15% of the value market today comes from the semaglutide and 85% comes from the tirzepatide molecule. What happens now? This is whatever happened so far. Now, futuristically, what would happen once the innovators go off patent? So, what we see is semaglutide will be losing patent somewhere in mid-March. More than 50 branded generics to hit the market. Size of the pie may increase in volume but slow down in value. Also, there will be aggressive promotion by a lot of Indian companies that will be entering this market. Let us look at all these sections one by one. So when we talk about the semaglutide losing patent, first of all, the difference between innovator as well as a branded generics. Innovators are biologics. Again, my internet is getting unstable, so I may just move out and join again. Innovators are biologics, close to 97% similar to the natural body chemicals and enzymes, hence superior in efficacy, tolerability, and side effect profile. They also come with several years of R&D work and clinical trials. Whereas branded generics are synthetics. They may have the same mechanism of action as the innovators, but may not be as superior in all the aspects as the innovators. But yes, the mechanism of action is more or less the same. Now, 50 plus branded generics to hit the market today. It is not just the big and mid sized pharma players who are eyeing this opportunity, but many smaller players are also entering this arena. Now, this is a super specialty molecule. Okay, really need to make your place in the chronic space before entering the super specialty molecules. So, the bigger and mid sized companies, they have already taken efforts over the last few years to strengthen their presence in the chronic segment. Smaller players who are just entering this opportunity for the sake of it may still not have that amount of leverage with the specialties who would be prescribing this set of doctors, this set of brands. Also, many players we've observed that they are launching multiple brands across different divisions to ensure that there is a lot of share of voice in the field of for this set of products or for this molecule. Size of the pie may increase. Branded generics. Now, this is what our past experience has been when DPP-4s or SGLT2s or sacubitril valsartan combinations went off patent. Branded generics come at one third to one fifth price of the innovators and increase the monthly sales to 2x to 3x times in the initial 3 to 4 months. Though many players enter the segment, it is the top 3 to 4 players who manage to make the most of the patent opportunity. Because though the price of the drugs decreases, it is the eligible patient pool which remains the same. So you may have many brands, but the patient base remains limited. Probably the eligible patients who could not earlier afford an innovator may be onboarded. But then the patient base doesn't increase exponentially because 50 plus brands have entered the market. Patients already in class. It is the special doctors who treat obesity or have obesity clinics or the high-end diabetologists may not necessarily shift to the branded generics. They may still continue to prefer innovators because of the sound clinical studies in terms of efficacy and the safety profile. Aggressive promotion by the Indian companies. With branded generics, the prescribing specialties for the anti-obesity drugs will expand from the specialty, super specialty doctors to consulting physicians, general practitioners, like CPGPs that we call. Patient profiling and monitoring, that is adherence to the therapy and lifestyle changes, needs to be done extremely stringently by these newer prescribing specialties. And this is a concern today. Why? Because before the launch of an innovator molecule, the multinationals spend more than a year in scientific education of the specialty, super specialty doctors about the disease, the patient profiling, and education. That aspect gets missed out with the CPGPs with the launch of branded generics. And this is a very important aspect when you are treating a very sensitive condition like obesity and where a lot of the systems of the body will be impacted. There may be a possibly higher rate of dropouts if patient profiling and monitoring is not done adequately. Also, there are chances of poor side effect management or dose titration. We'll have to wait and watch. But yes, I'm sure there are many responsible companies which are launching or entering the branded generics, and they would be taking care of this. To summarize, awareness and affordability of anti obesity drugs has shown a significant impact in the commercial pickup of these drugs. Patent loss of semaglutide will see massive onslaught of branded generics. As prescriber base shifts from specialty super specialty doctors to CPGPs, a stringent patient monitoring needed to ensure only eligible patients get onboarded and stay on the therapy with accompanying lifestyle modifications for effective results. So obesity is not just an injection which will make you lose weight. There are a lot of things in terms of dietary control, exercise that needs to go on parallelly with the consumption of anti-obesity drugs. Next, we move to our section of the IPM therapy performance. The growth of the IPM has been really good for this month. If you see, the value growth has been 11% and the unit growth has been positive. The top, all the therapies, almost all the top therapies are showing a double-digit value growth as well as a stronger unit growth. I have highlighted the therapies where the value growth is double-digit and the unit growth is also quite robust. If you see, majority of them are showing very strong growths. As far as the growth drivers are concerned, we see for the last 4 to 5 months, the volume driven growth has been quite encouraging, indicating a genuine increase in demand. It's not just the pricing or the new products which are driving the growth of the market, but then legacy brands or a high Demand-driven growth is seen in the market today. And for this month, for the month of February, the volume growth is 2.2%, which is a very encouraging sign. Let us look at some of the top therapies and let us look at how does the volume growth look for the top therapies. So if you see for majority of the therapies, top therapies, the volume growth for the month of Feb is quite positive. Coming to the top 40 corporates, the top 20 corporates, which contribute to almost 80%, 70% of the Indian pharma market, majority of them are showing a strong double-digit growth, and many of them are showing a unit growth, which is far higher than the unit growth shown by the Indian pharma market. Coming to the next set of 20 companies, you will see many of the players over here as well having a strong double-digit value growth and a good number of them having an extremely encouraging unit-driven growth. Talking about the strong volume-driven growth that is pushing the growth of the Indian pharma market. Coming to the top 40 brands, here is something interesting that has happened this month. If you see the ones which I've highlighted in yellow color, the brands number MAT rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, these brands also exist for the month of Feb in terms of ranking. Only thing the sequence has changed. While Augmentin Glycomed GP stay as the number 1 and number 2 brand for the MAT period, it is Mounjaro, which is number 1, followed by Augmentin, which is at number 2 position. So the top 5 brands remain the same for the MAT period as well as month period, only the sequence changes for the month. Besides these 5 brands, it is Zerodol SP, Monosef, Cilacar, Telma, Budecort, which have shown excellent value as well as unit-driven growth. Some more brands, the next 40 brands, Levipil, Lantus, Brilinta, Dytor, Dolo, Gemmer, Levera, and Kymorol Fort are also some of the brands in the next set of 20 which have shown a robust value as well as unit-driven growth. To summarize, the IPM has shown a value growth of close to 11% with all the therapies showing a positive value as well as unit growth. All the 3 growth levers are positive for the month of Feb for IPM overall as well as the majority therapies in the Indian pharma market. Majority of the players in the top 40 have shown encouraging value and unit growth. While the top players at MAT and month remain the same, the position of the players changes for both the time periods. That was all from our side, and thank you so much for joining us today on a weekend and a holiday. Enjoy your weekend, have a great weekend, and enjoy and have a great week ahead. Thank you so much.